So what's going on, man? What the fuck's going on out there? How's school?
It's good, man. I'm just finishing finals week. Got 2 exams tomorrow, but it's like physics and evolution, so I don't really plan on studying.
Fuck that. Did you take your biochem exam?
Yeah.
How'd you do?
I mean, I finished it. Felt like I knew how to answer every question, so.
You should regurgitate fucking not equations, chemical structures and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I fucking... In hindsight, I think the vast majority of shit I learned at UGA went in one ear and out the other. I feel like nonstop it was just like vomit everything out. Shit that I really didn't even understand. Do you ever memorize molecules and shit? Just to know what it looks like? Don't even know what the fuck it is?
Yeah, you don't know the purpose, structure.
Or equations or something. You don't even know the variables, but you're like, hey man, fucking delta, delta sigma, man, glucose. Perfect score, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's retarded. I would say that the common college student doesn't really know how to even study. Like, they just know how to memorize random shit.
I would say I did not learn how to study until I started studying for the MCAT.
Yeah.
And that was after, and most people take the MCAT after 3 years. I took it after 4 years, and yeah, I would say by the time I got to the MCAT, it was the first time I had to actually know how to study, because I was just memorizing pages, and you ever see Batman Dark Knight? You see that song Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
When he's talking to Alfred, and he's like there was a bandit stealing tangerine or emeralds or rubies to soldiers of tangerines.
Yeah.
And he's like, but he didn't want to kill. He was just giving them away. And he's like, well, why did he do it? He's like, some men want to watch the world burn. And then eventually he's like, Alfred, how'd you catch that thief? And he's like, we burned down the forest, Mr. Wayne. And so when I started studying for the MCAT, I was just looking at all the equations I needed to know. And I just started thinking instead of trying to figure out which ones I need to know and going off that, what if I just memorized everything? And so I made I think it was 28 pages of equations, and it took me 9 months, but every day I would just memorize 10, and the next day I would memorize 10 until I could regurgitate it. The next day I had 10 more until I could regurgitate 20. On and on and on. So, I got close to 1,000, but yeah, I just remember thinking burn down the forest, Mr. Wayne. So I memorized all that shit, and then was still failing the fucking physics sections, and I was like, this isn't fucking working. And I realized the MCAT's to weed out stupid people, and I'm clearly a stupid person. So yeah, man. In hindsight, I wish I had fucking. Actually, no, I don't give a shit at all because I didn't go. But yeah, well, actually, if I could really go in hindsight, I wouldn't have studied at all. I just would have partied. I would have started podcasting in 2013. I'd probably be making a living doing that instead of being on day one right now. Yeah, you're the first guest, man. Yeah. Fucking. So yeah, real hindsight, I wouldn't have done any of that. But yeah, because you still want to take the MCAT, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in hindsight, if I had to get a better score, I would have stopped memorizing shit and just started taking practice tests nonstop. Because I memorized for 9 months, and my score went from a 30 to a 31 in 9 months. And I was like, holy fucking shit. And then for the last month, all I did was do practice tests, and I went from a 31 to a 35. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You started studying for it yet?
Yeah. I've been doing some here and there. It's kind of hard to work it in with your semester.
Yeah.
Especially with biochem.
Yeah.
But I've just been emphasizing on practice questions and practice sections.
Yeah.
So I have Kaplan, I have Barron, and then I have Princeton Review.
Yeah.
And I kind of just weave the three together.
Yeah.
Go off of that.
Yeah. Did you torrent anything or did you buy everything?
The books I got off pretty cheap on Amazon.
Oh, nice.
I had a friend who broke up with this chick, and this chick gave him like her MCAT study
So weird.
books for Kaplan. So I got those for free.
Was it because they broke up?
Yeah.
That's a weird parting gift.
Yeah, I guess.
Fuck you. I wish your best in your medical endeavors. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. Fuck the MCAT.
Yeah, fuck the MCAT.
Dude, I remember there used to be this blog I would look at in like 2012. Yeah. And it was called Med School Hell. And it was from this dude that was in med school and then quit. Like, I don't think he failed. I think he just quit. And he made a blog and he said it was dedicated to saving as many people's lives by telling them to not go to medical school because you'll go fucking crazy. But
he's right, though.
Yeah. And he used to always refer to the MCAT as the 12-foot tall, horned, fire-breathing, dual-headed dildo-wielding dragon that keeps everyone from getting into med school. And you have to be able to sacrifice your soul to fuck that monster to get in. I think it still holds true.
Yeah, you definitely have to sacrifice a couple souls.
Yeah, sacrifice. Yeah, dude, I just stopped going to classes like 3 months before I took the MCAT.
Really?
Well, yeah, was I taking biochemistry that semester? I think I was. I was taking biochemistry. I was. Physics 2. And I don't remember what else. I think calculus. And yeah, my test scores weren't going up. My practice test scores were not going up. And I remember, it was like March. And I was like, hold on. Like, I had like a pretty good GPA at that point. And I was like, whether or not I get an A or a B in these classes probably isn't going to shift my GPA a whole lot. As long as I don't fail it. Like,
yeah.
And I was like, but these 3 months could dramatically change my MCAT score, which I feel like is, I was like, I could either apply with like a 3.8 and do poor on the MCAT, or apply with like a 3.75 and potentially ace it. So I just stopped going to class. I remember professors were like, "Is everything okay? Like this is very unusual of you. Like I failed like the last exams and everything, but dude, I went fucking crazy." I remember I was on like a weird 26-hour schedule. I put my mattress over my window so I didn't know what time it was. Yeah, man, my roommates were worried for me.
Going insane, dude.
Yeah, dude. Fuck that. Is that still your end goal? Med school?
Yeah.
You don't want to do research anymore?
No, that kind of, I kind of got steered away from that. I think the biggest thing that made me not want to go to graduate school is the people that generally go to graduate school. They're not the best socially, and I love people.
Yeah.
I want to go into medicine because of that.
Yeah.
So I figured I'd rather go into a field where, I'm helping people.
Yeah.
Making their lives better.
Do you mean like not good socially, like they're awkward? Or do you mean like...
Yeah.
Like they were like Martin Shkreli type. Like they're going into... You know who that is, right?
Yeah.
The guy that jacked up the insulin cost and made like $1 billion, but a bunch of people died because of it.
Well, I'm sure there's people like that in academia, but, that's why there's people like that in, medicine. There's awkward people in medicine.
Yeah.
It's just, most people that, decide to go to graduate school or med school, they're kind of, I'm generalizing here, and I could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But, they're usually socially awkward, and they're just the type of kids that, spend time studying 10 hours a day instead of, taking an hour or two to hang out with people. And I think that's...
Yeah. Yeah, man. Fuck, man. In hindsight, I wish I had done that. I wish I had just been normal. I just... I mean, it's easy to say now. Because at the time, like... I was in your position. Like right now, like you're not in med, so it's still this like, it's still this like 1,000-foot vertical wall and it's like you still got to climb it, and I'm here telling you like, yeah, don't worry about climbing it. It's like it was fucking easy for you to say, but dude, I think they weed that out. I think they make sure you're not like a psychopath because like I was a psychopath in college. I mean, dude, I did not have social skills. I looked at everything as an equation. I looked at like how to solve shit. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and like because I was so fucking obsessed with studying that once I got to med school, I realized I was like, oh, or in hindsight, I can look back and say, I think I'm pretty certain that's what the interview is for. Because they have all your numbers, they have your scores, they have your resume. I
Yeah.
think the interview is to make sure you're not a fucking psychopath. That you do take 2 hours a day to hang out with friends or something. And yeah, I think they probably saw right through me. They're probably like, this kid's a fucking psychopath. Fuck, man. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think there's a difference between, of course, there's more than a conservative difference between being a psychopath and just somebody who lacks social skills.
Yeah.
I think a psychopath is somebody who adheres to using people.
Yeah.
And that's how they get through their day-to-day life. And I've met plenty of those in college.
Yeah.
There's no short of people like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just the whole attitude or atmosphere of academia that pushes me towards medicine. And if it's not, med school per se, I still go into like podiatry. I've been looking into,
Do what?
Actually, my dad with his neuropathy.
Oh shit.
His podiatrist did a really good job of helping him with that.
Yeah.
We thought he was going to lose his foot. The orthopedic, surgeon said we should just cut it off.
Holy
but
shit.
the podiatrist said no, we could do this, and my dad listened to him, and things worked out.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Fuck, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you have to do podiatry?
Well, I think so. It's a 4-year school too, but the stats are less. It's a lot less cutthroat to get into.
Mm-hmm. I'll be honest. I don't know anything about podiatry.
You still have to do volunteering and job shadowing, just like med school, and of course you still do research and all of that.
Yeah.
It's just some of the classes required, are different, and some of the things you have to do before are a little different. But other than that, it's essentially the same process.
Yeah.
And I would probably say that the application cycle is, somewhat bit of a less of a hell
than
that of med school.
Probably, man.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I don't think I'm a psychopath. I think I was just
obsessed. I would say you were obsessed.
I think I met some psychopaths during those interviews, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've met plenty of them.
Really?
Oh yeah, dude, going back and forth, talking with the. Well,
without naming names or specifics or anything.
Man, I'm not sure if I want to necessarily spite anybody for being that way.
Yeah. But okay, I got you. Yeah, man, there was a dude I started a company with like a couple of years ago. We had another dude, or we had a girl that was gonna model our clothes.
Yeah.
Super hot chick. And me just looking at things like incentive, I was like, well, shit, I'll give you, you can have 1% of profit for everything sold with like, because it was like, if you see, like, she would advertise it on like Instagram and it'd be like, hey, like, use my name for whatever, 10% off, free shipping, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it as like, instead of this just being like a side thing, I was like, because if she was just doing it, it'd be like, do it at your leisure, whatever. But I remember I was like, no, I want someone that's gonna, I want the incentive to be theirs. Sort of like the quickest way to get rich is to like enrich those around you.
Right.
And so I was like, yeah. So I was like, here's a percentage. Do this. And the guy I was I had founded the company with. I still remember. I think it was the last conversation I had with him, but verbatim, I remember he said, "Do not share with the models. They are vessels for sales. They are tools for our advancement." I just remember it was like, man, if you talk that way about him, that's probably how you view me as well. I was like, shit, man, it's gonna be 10 years down the road, and I'm gonna wake up in a bath of ice with no kidneys. And so I was like, yeah, man, I don't think I'm gonna do this with you. But
yeah,
fuck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had one person who obviously, I met him in a math class, and obviously, they only wanted to be friends because, I was that weird kid that sat in the front row that knew all the answers.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I looked like I studied all day, but in reality, I probably, chill and smoke with my friends more than I study.
Yeah, you're just one of those savants.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say I probably am. Yeah, I don't know, man. I used to struggle socially, but now I kind of really, put a lot of effort into that area of my life. But
yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I've met quite a few psychopaths, and it was funny. I was watching a video from Jordan Peterson the other day.
Yeah.
And man, it's so hard for me to talk intelligently right now. I was so fucking high last night. God.
No, dude, I know how it feels. You wake up the next morning and it's like, hey, man, like, you want to go get a bite to eat? And you're like, well, do we take a car first? And it's like, what? I know exactly what you're talking about. There was like, people are like, there's no hangover from weed. And it's like, bull fucking shit. The next day is literally like, okay. All right.
That's exactly how the next day is.
Yeah, man. No, I get you, dude. Don't apologize. I know that feeling.
Yeah. But I was watching a video, and I think it was Jordan Peterson talking about working with psychopaths back when he worked at a prison. And he said, you couldn't tell them from normal people. But he said it was like you would do those group sessions with them. And he said it wouldn't help them. It would just give them more tools to use against people.
Dude, that's...
Yeah. That kind of put chills in your neck.
It does, man. You don't know that... So shit, whoever I think is a psychopath probably isn't one. They're probably just awkward. The real psychopaths, you have no idea. Yeah.
Like, you really have no idea.
I think you can probably tell, like, I think the one, in my completely uneducated armchair psychologist opinion, I feel like someone that does sympathetic or empathetic things towards you or for you, even when there's nothing you can do in return. I feel like that would be one way to weed out. Like you're not like an investment to them. It's one thing if I own a company and you're being nice to me and it's because way down the road you want to get in on my or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like someone that would do kind things for someone that cannot pay them back in any way. I feel like that'd be like the only way you could like for sure be like, okay, that guy's not a psychopath. He's just really fucking weird. You know?
Yeah. He's just really fucking weird and nice.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, there isn't a lot of people like that.
Yeah. I mean, dude,
but at the same time, I'm surprised that the world isn't burning outside,
Yeah.
Well, you kind of got to look at it as a miracle and be happy that it's not.
Yeah. I've thought about that, like, am I grateful enough for, like, how good everything is because of how bad everything is? Does that make sense? Like, the fact that the world's not burning despite everything.
Yeah.
Well, then you have to consider the flip side of that coin. Is anything really that bad if the world's not burning? How much, like, okay, like political divide. I've never actually seen anyone protesting. I've never seen anyone I've never seen a Proud Boy. I've never seen a BLM member. I've never seen Antifa. I've never seen on either side. I've never seen it. Despite Georgia, Maryland, Baltimore. Like, I've never actually seen it. Like, so it makes me think how much of it really exists, and how much is whoever's pulling the strings, or whoever has invested interests. Is it all fabricated?
Oh yeah, especially nowadays, you really got to ask those questions because,
Yeah.
man, you read about the Trump impeachment, but then you start reading some of the stuff the Trump administration was starting to investigate with Hunter Biden and in Ukraine, and red flags just start popping up with your mind, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, how many millions of dollars just disappeared?
Yeah.
And Ukraine was investigating.
Yeah.
I think it was like they were going to investigate the nonprofit company that Hunter Biden and George Soros was a part of in Ukraine. So Ukraine went to go investigate them, and then the Obama administration told them not to.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just stuff I've been hearing from people like Glenn Beck, and of course, Glenn Beck. You never be sure what
yeah
he's saying is true, but
yeah.
I mean, nonetheless, I think it's important to listen to different political news stations. You need to, as bad as you might need to listen to a little bit of CNN to understand your opposition a little bit better.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't really care much for the left, and I don't really care much for the right either. But man, I hate the left. I mean, if you,
it sounds like Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever hear that it was I think it was in like the early 2000s. They interviewed him.
I've never seen that one.
No, it's an interview with them. It's not even an episode. It's just an interview. And they're like, "Where do you guys lean politically?" And he's like, "I hate liberals. I cannot stand Republicans, but I fucking hate liberals." He starts going back and forth, and they're like, "Which one?" And he's like, "I just really can't stand the right, but I fucking hate the left." And he's just going back and forth. Yeah, man. That's the thing. Is like there's almost like a weird thing that like if you're not in line with the far left, you're kind of categorized into the right. But I don't consider myself right at all. Like religion.
Well, yeah, that's because their whole system is based on the dividing of powers.
Yeah.
The left, they believe, in Marxist theory, essentially, that you need to give this group power in order to even things out.
Yeah.
Which takes everything out of the individual's responsibility.
Yeah, the incentive.
So honestly, I think a lot of the problems we have today is because of that.
Yeah.
I would especially say the school systems these days are fucking up because all they're teaching is Marxist theory.
Yeah.
I mean, my first semester in college was at a community college, and I remember vividly the English professor praising, Marxism, essentially.
Really?
Very subtly, if you weren't intelligent enough to catch his interpretation and you realize that he's not making the distinction between interpretation and truth. He's just going straight to truth.
Yeah.
And that's what he's teaching, the people that are taking his class. And I think that is very dangerous.
Well, it's dangerous, especially if it affects your grades. Like, I had a professor at UGA who, if you could tell he was very left-leaning, but this is a dude that you could tell he valued education for what it was over everything else, because he would almost awkwardly go out of his way to also bring forth the opposing statement. And it was like, here's someone that's like, he can't hide the fact that he's liberal, but he was like, he went very far out of his way
to knowledgeable,
to say both sides. Because I remember asking him about it, and he was like, I have my opinions. And he's like, but my job is not to instill opinions. Or no, what did he say? My job is to not make you think like me. It's to teach you to think. Period.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of professors and a lot of school teachers nowadays aren't making that distinction. They're teaching you what to think, not how to think. And I think that is wildly dangerous.
I think it's wildly dangerous in either direction, though.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Like I went to Catholic high school. I mean, like, shit, looking back now, I'm like, yeah, if I wanted a good grade, I don't think I would. No, but that's unfair. All my teachers were good, but no, but I did have classes in college where I would, when it came to like a writing section or something, I pitched it to whichever leaning I felt that they were, and I would always, in fact, that would always affect my grade positively. And the few times I did not do that, it did not affect it positively. Like, so in college, like your grades and your standings, the level of confidentiality around that, it's almost like healthcare info. Like you're not, no one else is allowed to know your grades.
Right.
It's literally the professor will call you up, pull a piece of paper, that's your grade. Like, no one's supposed to know.
Great.
And I remember I was retaking German because
okay.
Yeah, this was after I took the MCAT, so I just didn't give a fuck anymore. This was my last semester.
I mean, might as well take a class you might enjoy.
Yeah. Well, I had to take I had to take German 1 and 2, and I failed German 1, so I had to retake it. And I remember it was like halfway through the semester, and this chick that was my teacher was like, I mean, if she was a guy, she would have had a Stalin mustache. But like, yeah. But like, but it was like whatever. It was, but everyone else in my class was a freshman, and here I was, an extra semester senior. Again, had already taken the MCAT, didn't care. My applications were in. I was like, I don't care. I just got to get a C. And yeah, for the most part, I didn't really give a shit. But throughout the semester, I was like, here's this chick, and like, this is the first semester for all these 18 and 19-year-olds, and I was like, this class isn't even politics oriented. It's literally learning like the vowels in German, like the pronouns and shit, der, dem, die. And I just remember I was like, this chick is like lockstep, like, I mean, like communist in arms. And so like, there's probably like a month left in the semester, I finally made a comment. And it's just kind of like, hey, aren't you not supposed to like do that? Kind of like, I've said something along the lines of like this is my last semester, like this is my 9th semester. Make fun of that if you will, but I was like, you're not supposed to bring this up, kind of thing. There was like something in the like UGA. It was like you're not allowed to. It was some political thing. I think it was like fill out this like survey for this candidate running, and if you do this survey, you get extra credit. But it was only for what? First of all, you're not allowed to do that. Period. But second of all, it was for this like super leftist like local town candidate or something. And I remember I was like, hey, you're not supposed to do that. I was like, you're not supposed to do that. Like kind of. And I remember she said, she's like, 1, please don't talk in my class, and 2, you really shouldn't be talking. You need to pay attention because you're already retaking this class. You already failed it over the summer. And I was like, and again, like I don't give a shit. Like I was a cocky asshole. I was like, I'm gonna go be a doctor. You're a German professor. I don't give a shit. Karma bit me in the ass for that. But I just remember feeling like, you can't do that. And she's like, you already failed this class this summer. You're retaking it. And everyone was like, ooh. But I was just thinking, I was like, how quickly that like backfired once I challenged that. Like,
well, I think that's really petty and unprofessional at the same time.
Then again, this professor was I was 23, she was 26. Probably didn't help that I was talking back.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. And that's that person doesn't represent everyone. That's just me.
Well, did you? My question is did you fail during that summer? Or is that just something she said?
No, I failed. I completely failed. That's no. I failed the summer prior to taking her class. Yeah, I completely. But yeah, that was a weird one. But then again, what am I doing but cherry picking one example to support my argument? Is that any better than her? I don't think so. So, I don't know. We had this professor, my chemistry professor. What the fuck was his name? I think it was Professor Stanton. This was fall 2011, UGA, General Chemistry.
Right.
And, but he was this, like, super far right guy.
Yeah, and, I've met those, too.
Yeah. And to me, it's just as bad. Even though I was right-leaning, I was still just like, fuck off. Like, fuck off, teach me chemistry. But everything had a quip about, like, Obama or, it was just like, like fuck off. Like I need to learn about fucking ionic bondings and covalence and gay shit. But here's this, and he would always like, he's like one of those like creepy, right, like fags go to hell kind of guy. Like,
Right,
and
right.
like not cool. And then I remember he was fired halfway through the semester because he was caught in a sting operation hiring prostitutes.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was like, huh, yeah, man. I guess that's what happens when you suppress shit. Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I think I don't know, man. I think they need to keep politics out of the classroom. But I will say there is, I listen to a lot of like Jordan Peterson or the what do you call them? The intellectual dark web. You know what I'm talking about?
The Akira album. Is that what you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Not necessarily the intellectual dark web. So like Mark Rubin, Ben Shapiro.
Okay.
Sam Harris.
I was gonna say Sam Hyde.
I don't
Do you
know.
know who Sam Hyde is? He's the guy that did that fake TED talk.
I don't know. Who
I think
man.
he's. Yeah, it's kind of it's like the opposite of Reddit, basically.
Right.
Yeah, the intellectual. Okay, yeah. No, I just hadn't heard that term before. Intellectual dark. Okay, yeah. So yeah, the idea that that globalism isn't great, that unlimited immigration is not the answer, that open borders is a terrible fucking idea, like that.
Well, they don't necessarily wholly believe that, but they necessarily believe that it's no longer right versus left. It's authoritarian state versus freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, that's how they view it. And honestly, I think they're right.
I think they're right too. I think the reason why I would say I don't identify as like a Republican is because if you just were to break down what each side is, not in terms of of what the views are, but simply as they exist as relations of control and power, they're actually a lot too they're too similar for my liking. Okay, so let's just I've been taking shots at the left because I'm clearly not left, so I'll continue to. But like, okay, you shouldn't be able to make this much money. Like every day on Reddit, it's fuck billionaires, right? You shouldn't be able to make this much money. We're going to take it for social programs. We're going to tax it. You can't own guns. You can't buy this. You can't do whatever. So, but let's just break that down into the simplest blocks. It's power and subject, right?
Right.
If you look at the right, though,
it's the same thing.
It's they say we're not for that. Keep your hands off my wallet. Blah blah blah. Okay. Marijuana should be legal. On the right, no, it should not. It's dangerous. How do you know? And it's like, well, who's telling you it's dangerous? It's the government. Why the fuck? The same side that champions, the same side that uses the quote when the government tells you don't need an AR-15, that's when you need an AR-15.
Yeah.
Or a government big enough to give you everything is a government big enough to take everything away. The same side that champions that is the same side that says gays shouldn't be able to get married. You shouldn't. Pot is dangerous. Or you shouldn't be able to switch your gender. Or so when you look at it from that side, they almost kind of reflect each other.
They do.
They
definitely do.
They have different pieces of the chessboard, but ultimately it's power subject. It's just different ones. This side says, don't tell me I can't get an abortion. This side says, don't tell me I can't buy guns. This side says, you don't need all that money. This side says, you don't need bot. Like, it's not. It kind of feels like it's like a cleverly woven mirror on each side. And whether or not it's woven and there's someone pulling strings, or whether that's me projecting a boogeyman that's not there, I don't know. But yeah, what I was going to say, which is why it's so, back to kind of what we were saying earlier, I think it's so disappointing when you don't follow lockstep with either one of them, they accuse you of being the other.
Yeah.
And it's like they're
No.
even on Reddit, it's like, okay, on Reddit is 99% people saying the right sucks or the left sucks, just going at each other's throats. That's not. We already did trench warfare. It was World War One. It worked horribly. But if you ever try to toe the middle line, you'll get more shit than either side. You'll get more shit than ever coming out as left or right. Be like, look at this. Don't sit on the fence. Choose a side. Like, and it's like, what? I feel like that's the only way forward, though. It's like that meme. What are your political views? I think gay married couples should be able to use guns to protect their weed. Like, yeah, that's how yeah, like, yeah. Like, I think that's the perfect way to say it. But yeah, if you go on one side or the other, you're automatically on the other side, and it's like, I don't think my views have changed at all over 10 years. And I voted for Obama in 2009 when I was 18. I would say my views haven't changed at all. But now I would be classified as, like, literally like a Nazi goose-stepping right.
Yeah, you'd be classified as alt-right. It's like you said, it's almost like a cleverly woven mirror, It's almost like you need to be either side or you don't belong. And, you look at, World War II, the German government, the first thing they did was essentially divide the people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
it's just one side has to be triumphant. And it doesn't have to be that way at all. I think it's just, again, it's just Marxism. It doesn't need to be about power.
No. And which begs the question, like, is there a shadowy group? And not to immediately jump into an Illuminati hole. But
I think there is. I 100% believe there's a.
But I mean, if that's not the oldest play in the book, not in American politics, but in human interaction, divide and conquer. Yeah. If I gotta fuck with you and your roommate, first thing I'm doing is using my Photoshop skills to fucking make fake text that y'all are texting each other's girlfriends. That's the first thing I'm doing. Divide and conquer. Why fight both of you when I can pitch you guys at each other's throats and then walk into your apartment and take whatever? Like, that's the easiest way. Like, you don't want to have to brute force it. Like, you can, and you can see that as like the U.S. military. That's our backup card. Is the biggest standing army in the history of the world. But like, it almost seems like it's so fanatical that it has to be choreographed. It almost seems like, I'm terrible at interrupting, by the way, so talk over me. But it almost seems like a fucking, like, a Netflix drama. Like, the next season. What are the writers going to write next season? Trump.
Yeah, where are the cameras?
Yeah, no. What's Trump doing in 2020? Like, find out next season. Like, tune in this week. What happens with Ukraine? Nothing happened. But next season, what's coming on? And then you have all these characters. You have Beto saying he's taking the guns, and then you have Trump saying grab him by the pussy. And it's just like, at a certain point, doesn't it almost seem like it's written?
It's well choreographed. Yeah. That's the reason I don't trust just one news station. You kind of have to listen to a bunch of different ones just to get the whole picture.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you don't do that, then you get trapped in that entanglement of one single thought.
Yeah.
Of, abortions are bad. Well, why are abortions bad? Well, God said so. But, Mary down the road might not believe in God. It's up to her. And I think that as a society, we should push individual responsibility, and I think we'd be a lot better off that instead of this group power responsibility concept that I can't even comprehend. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me, but everybody else seems to be so well indulged into it.
Well, which poses the question that I brought up earlier. Is everyone else into it? Or are we made to believe that everyone is into it? You look at the news and they say, well, everyone else is for this, pro-globalism agenda. And it's like, fuck, am I just like a black sheep standing out? Or does no one really believe it, but everyone thinks everyone else does. It's like I go to each one of you. It's like, have you ever been like interrogated by the police? I did some really stupid shit my sophomore year of college, and I ended up in a police station. But like, I remember the first thing they said was, so it was like me and my friend, and we went in, and so we had broken into a neighboring frat house. Did I ever tell you about that?
No.
Where's statutes of limitations? How long?
7 years for
Okay, well,
misdemeanors.
Okay, for misdemeanors. What about felonies?
I don't really know, man.
Okay,
I don't keep track of that stuff.
Okay, well, me and a friend got really fucked up. I think it was New Year's Eve, 2010, going into 11. And this is a whole story for another time that I'm not going to tell right now. But we basically broke into a neighboring frat house, like our rival, and kind of like stole and burned everything they owned, kind of thing. And like police showed up the next day and were like fingerprinting and shit. But like, so I remember, but they brought us into like, and so like we went in and like, we had friends whose dads were lawyers, and they called us and they were like, "Don't say anything. Just do not say anything at all." And we went in, and I'm getting off track, but the first thing the police did was say like, "Hey, your buddy said it was you. You know, he just confessed to everything. Is that true, or is it?" Which makes me think like, there's a roundabout way of saying like, is everyone so devoted to a globalist idea, or is that just the media saying everyone is into it?
Well, is it the government saying everybody's into it?
Yeah, I would say that they're one and the same. I would.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fucking.
It's not distinguishable.
Yeah, who's the Operation? You know what Operation Mockingbird is, right?
No.
Okay. Well, Operation Mockingbird was something from the CIA that they wanted to embed agents in every major news outlet, starting in the 50s. So they could sway and kill. They could sway stories that came out and kill stories before they came out. Right? The director at the time, CIA Director William Casey, said off the record in 1981, on the record, "We will know that our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false." So, that was in 1981, and the operation started in the 50s. Then there's no way that shit's ever stopped.
No, it hasn't stopped.
It's like, you know, it's like us meddling in like other nations and like, you know, and fabricating coup d'etats and shit. We know we've been doing it since the 50s, and then like, but the declassifications stop around like the 90s. You know, and every year that goes by, some shit, however, you know, 30 years ago now gets declassified or whatever. But so there's this like black wall of memory that starts in like 1990, and it's like really. So we're looking at 1950 through 1990, and every year we're doing mischievous shit, and now it's all classified up to that point. And next year, 1990 will be whatever. It's like it doesn't take two brain cells to extrapolate that it's still going on, right?
Right.
So yeah, you look at stuff like that, and it's like, all right, this was declassified in 1980, and it's like. But for 30 years it was classified, which makes you think there's no way that in 30 years we're going to find out about what was declassified. What's, you know, they're going to declassify now from 2019 or in 50 years or in 80 years. I mean, which makes I don't know.
Can't comprehend it.
Yeah, but the thing is if you ever bring that up, you're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. If you say the media is the one the same as the government, you're laughed off as a conspiracy theorist. But the actual fucking term conspiracy theorist was created by the CIA's Psychological Operations Division to label those that question the official narrative to be embarrassed so they won't do it anymore. Like,
Oh,
yeah. And don't take my word for it. Fucking Google it. Like, look it up. So it's... But it makes sense. Like, so, like, why wouldn't you ever want to question that? Oh, I don't want to be called a conspiracy theorist. Well, it makes perfect sense. You don't want to be ostracized. So, I don't know, man. It does kind of fucking feel like we're living in the Matrix sometimes.
I think the perfect fix for this is the people just need to start reading books about the tragedies that happened, from having an authoritarian government. I mean,
Yeah.
read the Gulag. The Gulag is one hell of a book.
Yeah, really.
I mean, it's emotional, man. I mean, it goes into. I mean, I felt like if every, I feel like in order to really comprehend the book, you probably need to be at least high school. So I would say if every high schooler in the United States read that book, I think that our problem of left versus right would disappear overnight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think people would gain a better understanding of, yes, we need to focus on the individual as a society instead of groups.
Mm-hmm.
Because groups have already been tried, and it did not work. I mean, how many million people have died in Russia and China?
Between 1900 and 2000, estimated between 95 million and 148 million. Between 1900 and 2000 from communist regimes. But even that, here's a little experiment for you to do. Post that anywhere on Reddit and watch how quickly it gets destroyed. Downvoted, banned. And the thing is, it's not even like it's not like an unpopular opinion. It's fucking statistics.
Yeah, it's a fact.
It's like whether or not you believe in man-made climate change. I'm not going to open that can of worms. Whether or not you believe in it, the fact of the matter is no one denies that like the temperature is going up and it's going down. Like it's getting more dramatic. Whether you believe that's from humans, whether you believe it's from sun cycles, whether you believe it's God punishing us for letting gays marry, whatever. like whatever you believe the cause, one thing no one denies is that you look at the statistics, right? Summers are getting hotter every year. Winters are getting colder or more extreme. Right? Sure. Yeah, okay. Animals are going. That's one thing no one denies. What causes it? Again, not going to open it. I have my opinions. You have yours. I don't care. But the weird thing about the 10th of a billion dead under communism in a century, you'll be called a fucking racist for bringing that up, which is in itself a mindless insult that doesn't have anything to do with it. But I mean, you'll get labeled as alt-right, you'll get labeled as a fucking fascist, you'll get labeled as a bootlicker. But that's an undeniable fact that between 1900 and 2000, over 100 million people died as a direct result of suppressive communist regimes. That is an undeniable fact. And it's undeniable when even as something as censorship-rich as Google still has it as the top Google search if you Google it. Like, that's how undeniable it is. How long is that going to be an accessible piece of information? Who knows? But, yeah, like, it does not matter where. It does not matter if it's in South America or the fucking Siberian tundra. Every place it has been tried results in genocide. Every single place in every single era, and despite whichever cool uniforms they have, like, it always results. Whether it's the fucking Middle East, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's South America, it always results in millions of people dead. Like, after a century of data, like, you can start to like extrapolate some pretty basic patterns. Socialism and communism, advanced time, mass genocide. And that's not in like, and I'm not saying capitalism's perfect, because the immediate...
Well, I mean, of course it's not. No system's perfect.
Exactly. Like, I don't think it's perfect. And that's, when you bring up those statistics, the first thing that comes up is, well, here's how wrong capitalism is, and here's how bad... Like, yeah. Yeah, it's... yeah. I think it's less bad. I think
exactly. It's a lesser of two evils.
Yeah,
and the one is, it's hell, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Amputation's bad, but it's better than sepsis and death.
Right.
Like, yeah, man. it kind of eerily seems like we're marching in that direction.
It's kind of scary.
Like yet again, it kind of feels like, and like another undeniable thing. Like, why is it? It's always brought up that like, why do you really need guns? Like, really, the government's gonna like that was necessary in 1770. Like, you don't need that anymore. Government's not. But the way I look at it is the reason why it's such a pipe dream of that ever happening in America is because guns are omnipresent. Like 2019. It's 2019. Look what the fuck's going on in Hong Kong right now. Like,
yeah.
Like, have you seen that shit where when they're getting arrested in mass, what the protesters will do? They're going on like the buses and shit. They'll all slam up their IDs on the window, so people will take pictures. So when we go missing, here's my data, here's my information. Or have you seen those videos where when they start to get bound by police, they'll start screaming out their name and their address and who their parents are, because like, hey, I'm gonna go missing. That's happening. This isn't fucking World War II. Like, this isn't Vietnam.
I mean, it's happening now.
This isn't 1990s. Now, as we are recording this, it is happening now. And the argument is, well, if they had guns, the Chinese government would use that as an excuse to just squash them harder. Probably, I don't disagree with that. But so just bend over. You'd rather bend over and take it in slow motion than have a fighting chance and get squashed in fast forward. Like,
well, I think ever since the dawn of human social structures, I really feel like we've been fighting this problem ever since the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It's
what do you mean?
The superior. I mean, think about the Middle Ages. Kings and queens. They were the only people that were essentially out of poverty.
Yeah.
And you look at it now. Look at what capitalism's done.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
People are getting more and more people are getting healthcare every year.
Yeah.
People are actively being brought out of poverty, which I think is a great thing, man. But then you have the other side of it. You have people slowly losing their rights. And how you have people being arrested for sharing their view of the world in Hong Kong. And man, I mean, it brings chills in my bones because it reminds me of reading the Gulag. I mean, it reminds me of
it's how it creeps in. It doesn't happen like that.
I mean, Stalin was I mean, the Soviet system was just, the Gulag system itself was insane. I mean, I think it was like, if you would randomly get arrested and they would say you would commit this crime, and they would have this other person come in saying you committed the crime, and that person will be threatened and said, if you don't do this, then you're going to Gulag.
Yeah.
And so essentially everything was just made up.
Yeah.
But nobody thought to question it.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing, man. I mean, how do you get such a big country like, the Russia to fall
into that order section? That order.
That's crazy.
Well, I think I think the answer is you do it very slowly.
Well, yeah, and I think it's all the same path. I think it's you slowly start taking away their rights. Or you say, oh, well, we're going to do this. This is going to protect you. I mean, I think that's essentially what the Soviets said. They said, oh, it's the rich and the educated fault. So what did they do? They took all the doctors and lawyers. They sent them to the Gulag or they killed them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think we're slowly stepping in that, right? Oh, this doctor's making $200,000 a year. He shouldn't be doing that because
Bob over here isn't.
Well, Josie, she has 2 kids. She had one when she was 16, the other when she was 19. Doesn't have a husband, and she's, living in poverty. But the thing is it's not that she's the victim of some power grappling doctor. It's that, as an individual, she didn't make the choices that put her in a better situation. And that's hard when you are born in poverty and whatnot. There's no shit. I mean, that's a horrible life to live, but that doesn't mean it can be better.
Yeah.
And essentially, I think what some of the people are saying against his argument nowadays is essentially what Jordan Peterson said in his one book, 12 Rules for Life, that you need to make it a tragedy, not hell. Mm-hmm. And I think by blaming it on other people or blaming your mishaps on other people, you're making your life hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. I think, you slowly just get people to weave away from this concept of individual responsibility. And I think that's the way that, throughout human history, I think that's the way that tyrannous societies have been created.
Well, it's like that, who's Alexander, is that his first name? Tocqueville? What was his quote? It said, I could be butchering this. Democracy will fail when...
Good man stop.
No. That's a good one, but it's not. Democracy will fail when the public can be bribed with the public's money.
Yeah, exactly.
Or it's
I remember that one.
So Bloomberg. So it's not like I think I've established that I'm pretty far right, but I'll stick up for Bloomberg. It was pretty far left. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's pretty far left.
If you can't tell, I've tried very hard for the last month or so to completely unplug from everything. Unplug from all political. I've tried to.
Well, I don't blame you. I'll bring you some peace.
I've tried to let the storm in my mind settle, but Elizabeth Warren said that. So here's Bloomberg's coming in and he's gonna buy his spot in the election. That's bribery. Is promising to forgive student debt or promising universal health care, how the fuck is that any less of a bribery?
Well, I think the crazy thing about that is the reason that healthcare and fucking college is so expensive is because of the government. I mean, there's no denying that. Mm-hmm. I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you tell somebody that you're going to pay for their college, the college is, of course, is going to raise their prices.
It's like no bid contracts for defense industries. When it's 1960 and you're the only one that can launch a National Reconnaissance Office satellite into space, fucking name your price, bud. We don't have the space shuttle anymore. We're using Russian Soyuz rockets to get to space. Isn't it convenient that they now charge us $80 million per seat per flight? Hey, they got the fucking market cornered. But yeah, if you're a college and the government's gonna pick up the tab, well, fuck yeah. Why wouldn't you yank it up? Why wouldn't you jack the price up? So I don't think you can. It's like the intention is good. I think that's something that if you're not for these super gratuitous social programs, again, you're immediately labeled as this fucking heartless Nazi. But it's not that I don't think that like those things like come from the right place. It's that you're punishing the wrong people, if there's anyone to punish. But it's like, it's like doctors making less under the PPACA, Obamacare, Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. They were going to make less, as well as also have a 1% tax levied on them. But so you're going to tax the doctors because healthcare costs too much. That's as ridiculous as cutting soldiers' salaries because the Iraq War is costing too much, or cutting firefighter salaries because there's more forest fires and it's costing an arm and a leg. You're biting the hand that feeds you. Doctors are not only. I'm not even going to get into fucking they earn it. I mean, Jesus Christ, I only know how hard it is to get in. I don't know what it's actually even like in med school or what it's actually even like in residency.
Yeah.
But to charge them, to tax them, or to penalize them, they're just gonna leave. they're just going to leave the fucking country. They're just going to go somewhere else, and then you're not going to have any fucking healthcare. So it's, I don't know, man. It's sticky.
I mean, it's a stupid game for sure.
Yeah, it's. What do you think about the idea that all conflict and suffering arises from? Do you got to piss?
Huh?
You look like you got to piss.
No.
Oh. I thought you were like,
I'm just kind of wiggling around. The heat is on, and it's not exactly cold outside. So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm trying not to block your face. I have my own little. No one needs to see my ugly face. It's the idea that all conflict and suffering arises from competition for resources. That none of this would exist, no problem would exist, no power structure would be able to divide us if there was unlimited resources. Let's just. I've always thought about this, like how would you create, at what point is utopia or heaven a reality? And it's, you look far enough forward and it would be robots operated by artificial intelligence, powered by unlimited power from solar, who would be building and planting everything using 3D printers and planting using just the most fucking advanced genetic engineering to get to a point where there's a fucking robot army on the world, not in a dystopian way. A fucking robot army powered by an unlimited fuel source that no one has to pay for, using 3D printers and to create all material things we need, and for unlimited vertical farms with insane high yield genetic engineering for crops. What that paints the picture of is unlimited, and use that unlimited power. So let's say we somehow discover we somehow perfect cold fusion, and so we can now use that power intensive process to desalinate the oceans when we need it. So that's unlimited food, unlimited water. That's the ability to have anything, any material thing like that. So there's now no longer limited resources. So you no longer have child laborers in Africa digging up rare earth minerals or rare earth metals to be manufactured by suicidal cogs in the machine and Foxconn mega factories in mainland China to be shipped over here to where a bunch of fat lazy Americans like myself wait in line to buy an iPhone. If all those things are negated, and not in an idyllic communist sense, but rather there's quite literally unlimited food, water, and material, I kind of think that that's the only way to really end all conflict. Because as long as there's any competition for anything, there will always be either people at each other's throats or a shadowy elite manipulating people to go at each other. I think until there's unlimited resources and it's decentralized everything, everyone has their own robot that will print them anything, will, fucking molecularly assemble any food you want in an apple, like that, Like there'll be an industrial revolution for food and 3D printing in the same way that it used to be very difficult to get a woven shirt versus, industrial revolution. Now they fucking shit them out like pancakes at IHOP. Like, that's a good analogy. But like, I think until you have completely unlimited everything and no one controls the means of that unlimited everything, I think there will be conflict. I'm saying all this to say this. So I think the fastest way to reach that technological utopia is, I think capitalism is the quickest way to it. I think on a long enough timeline you'll get to it, I think capitalism's the quickest way to it, and it's like you got a splinter. Do you want me to pull it out slowly, or do you want me to yank it out? It's like either way, it's gonna fucking suck. But don't you want the quicker one? That's I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm going on a
I kind of think that human suffering and chaos ultimately arise from us. I think that's why the looking at the world as an individual is so important, because only we can control it. And so I think that all human suffering is essentially caused by humans because we're imperfect. And I think that looking at it in terms of limited resources is kind of a dangerous fantasy to have. I think that looking at what the world, well, I won't say that, but I would say that realistically,
I'm interested in having my idea challenged. Like, please, shit on it.
Well, I need to think about what I need to say here.
I think you're coming at it from. If I may, unlimited everything will alleviate a lot of problems, but ultimately, like, there will always be like existential suffering, or like your own outlook on shit.
Yeah, I mean, there will always be, and that's just because that's how our reality is made.
Yeah, that's a non-negotiable part.
And I think that's essentially what the left is doing, is they're pushing towards a utopia that everybody needs to live in, but it's a utopia where you're forced to be cookie cuttered.
Yeah.
You need to think like them. You need to breathe like them, and I don't think that's right. I think it's a dangerous fantasy to live by, to think that most of the world's problems is caused solely by limited resources. There's an argument to be made of that, but I just think that's a dangerous way of viewing the world, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that you need to understand the capabilities of people in order to understand that problem at a much deeper level.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the evil we see nowadays comes from people, but not by limited resources. I mean, we can blame it on limited resources, but where does the accountability go? There's no progress without accountability, and I really think that's probably more of the problem. I would say that limited resources is a problem. Of course, there's an argument to be made of that.
It doesn't matter how positive you are. Yeah, if you're starving, yeah.
I think it's personal accountability, because only you can make your situation better.
Yeah.
And why would the government care about where you are now? And that's the whole point I want to make, is that the government shouldn't be big.
Yeah.
The people should be big.
Yeah.
The people's control over the government should be big.
Yeah.
But not the other way around. And I think it's wildly dangerous to have the other way around, like we do now.
Yeah.
I think, we're moving towards like a police state. I see that day to day. It's almost like when you get pulled over, you're kind of scared because
and
you don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
And we're white. Like, we're playing it on easy. Like,
yeah, I had, driving through Salt Lake City one time, I had a cop pull me over for going too slow. I was going 5 over. So, too much power to be had from in their perspective, but I think there's a push there because, we're having problems with drugs and this and that, so the cops need to come do it. But again, it's personal responsibility, man. I don't think that any government official should have more power than the people. I think that's stupid. I view cops nowadays as redcoats.
Yeah.
That's essentially how I view them.
Yeah.
I respect them. I respect their job they're doing. They're working very hard. I respect them for bringing narcotics off the street or whatever. But to be honest, in the long term, it's not doing us any good. All they're doing, for example, for bringing narcotics off the street, is they're creating a more supply and demand.
Market.
They're creating a market for stronger products. And
you're creating a market for cartels.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like, instead of fighting the war that way, I feel like, maybe we should invest more in some treatment centers to help people get over their addictions. Or, I think the step that the Swedes took back in the 80s when heroin addiction peaked is that they said, okay, it's no longer illegal. We're going to open up these treatment centers and we're going to get people the help they needed. And it was almost like overnight. Their problem with increasing HIV rates, increasing HCV rates, decreased overnight because of the no longer exchanging dirty needles, but also because of people were getting the help they needed, and it wasn't affecting other parts of their lives.
Yeah,
because of it.
You're not hiding it because oh fuck, it's illegal. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and I don't think the cops should be able to tell me that. Well, I don't think the government should be able to tell me that I shouldn't be allowed to smoke this herb because it makes me delusional and it's dangerous. I think that's my personal responsibility that I should be able to make that choice for myself. If I want to get lung cancer from smoking tobacco at the age of 15, that's my choice. Of course, I should be educated against it, and that's the whole point of schools.
But that's your free ride. It's
I mean, it's not the cops, and it's not the government's say. And I don't know. I understand there needs to be rules in society to prevent chaos, but all I'm saying is that our government is too big.
It's like what Bill Hicks said. He's like, do you know that he's like, what's the difference between a dead smoker and a dead non-smoker? Nothing. They're both dead. He's like, you're still gonna fucking die. He goes, you know what happens when you go up to heaven? You know what all the clouds are? Cigarette smoke. and who's the angel at the gates of heaven? Who is it? Is it Saint Michael?
I think so.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Whoever it is, Bill Hicks is like, yeah. What happens is Saint Michael comes up to you and he's smoking a cigarette and you're like, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah. What do you think all this smoke is? It's cigarette smoke. That's why they call it heaven. We're all smoking. He goes, come on in. Hendrix is on harp tonight. But yeah, man, I think there's also, I think you're allowed to smoke cigarettes and get fucking lung cancer at 15. Twist side, no one's gonna pick up that tab for you when you got to pay that healthcare. Like that's what I believe.
Yeah,
I think it's
that's your choice. Exactly.
I think it's brutally bare, hands off. I think that's
how it should be. But
so do I. I think if you want to die from fucking obesity or a heroin overdose, I think you're allowed to. And I know that sounds fucking brutal, but like, I think you're allowed to, man. I think that's your fucking freedom. Or it's your freedom to roll the dice and hope not to die. Like, but I think if that shit's made illegal and unattainable, all it's doing is pushing it to an unregulated place where we're all still going to do it. I don't know. I don't have a single fucking friend that I was not getting drunk with before we were 21. But like, seriously, I mean, but I don't think I knew a single person in high school that was not getting drunk before we were 21.
Right.
But all that led to was us driving to sketchy liquor stores, finding sketchy dudes who would be willing to pay or would be willing to take the cash of a bunch of white suburban kids and go get us a bottle of fucking disgusting brandy or something.
Right.
We would go drink somewhere where our parents were not, and more often than not, we would drive back, fucking shit canned. And I think it happens regardless. Like,
yeah, it happens regardless, exactly.
Like okay, with guns, you ban guns, no one's gonna stop. No one's gonna fucking stop. I'm gonna get my shit from a cartel. Same with abortion. Like that. That's why there's the whole trope or the meme of the back alley abortion. You're still gonna get it. Agree with it or not, you're still gonna get it. Whoever wants to get it is gonna get it.
Well, I think the thing is I feel like our government model right now is it's the helicopter parent, but I feel like we really need to move to a place where it's it's based on individual responsibility.
Touch the oven, get burned. And learn not to touch the oven.
I think that cops should their job should be to protect and serve, not meet quotas.
Or Grand Theft Auto, obey and survive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obey and survive. I mean that that shootout with the UPS driver.
Yeah,
That was,
yeah.
I don't understand the circumstances of the situation, but still, that's ridiculous. You're shooting into civilians.
Yeah, yeah.
You could have. There's things you could have done, but
yeah,
I don't understand it. I mean, the whole, cop lives matter versus a black lives matter. I mean, that whole thing, that just drives me nuts because they're essentially saying the same shit on both sides. It's just, I think that all lives matter. I think that,
and I don't think it's a racist thing to say that, to say all lives matter. Like it.
And then I think prison reform. I think that we don't need to be incarcerating people. We need to help people change. And I think
some people aren't allowed out. If you decapitate 30 kids and you've worn their skin as faces, or if you raped a toddler, some people are not allowed out. Sorry, you played the game. You took a shit on the Monopoly board. You're not allowed to play Monopoly anymore. But a lot of it, I'm with you. It's
we're overfilling our prisons with dealers smoking 2 grams of weed. I mean,
fucking 20-year-olds who are selling pot.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
shit, man. I've never been wanting in my life.
Have you met a 20-year-old who's had their life together? I haven't. I mean,
dude, I'm 29, and I know a handful of people who are banging on all cylinders, and I know 1,000 that are not. I know a handful of people that are married. They're doctors or they're lawyers. They have kids, and they have, at least on the surface, they have it together. But everyone else, no, man. It's. I don't even know. I'm not even gonna pretend to know where the quote comes from, but it's like, dude, go grow up in the ghetto with no future anything. After how many years of working night shifts at Arby's are you gonna go, fuck it, I'll roll the dice, I'll sell coke? But seriously, how long do you go through that insanity, knowing that you're going to be fucking serving burgers till the day you die? And I don't mean I'm lazy, I'm not going to work hard, fuck it. I don't mean that. I mean people who legitimately are giving it their all, but there is a certain point that they cannot rise above. They were born into it. They have 3 kids. They live in a shit place. They're paying child support, and they're growing and they're working at fucking Arby's because their mom grew up with 3 kids in a shit environment. At a certain point, it doesn't even matter. You can be the most upstanding person. You can legitimately be giving it your all to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But you reach a certain point where, man, you're 45 years old and you didn't get through 8th grade and you're working at Arby's. That dude's not going anywhere. And the knowledge that you're working till the day you die, so today is no different than 40 years from now. I mean, so it logically comes down to 2 things. It's like Eckhart Tolle. He's like, when a problem arises, do something about it or leave. All else is madness. So, well, if you do something, let's say you can't do something about it, you don't have any money, you're putting your kids through a shitty fucking public school, and for the fucking life of you, hoping that they don't fall into the same trap as you. You don't want to kill yourself because then they're going to be insured to fall into the same shitty trap. So what other gamble is there than to fucking start selling dime bags of crack? And it's easy for me to point at it and say, oh, it's wrong and they shouldn't. It's against the law. But I'm also white and I've gone to fucking private school my whole life. I've never been faced with anything even remotely that good. The biggest sacrifice I ever faced was, should I get a B in biochemistry and genetics so I can get a higher MCAT score? So I can go to a better medical school than a lesser medical school and still become, oh no, a doctor. That's the biggest gamble I've faced in my life. It's laughable. Right. It sounds like a shitty punchline, but yeah, man, yeah, I don't even really know where I'm going with this, but yeah, no, there are a ton of fucking people in jail for that shouldn't be in jail. Like, they're just trying to fucking hustle. Like,
Yeah.
put them in school, and that person's probably gonna hustle through school and be really
I
good at
mean,
it. I've
I mean,
heard,
this brings me. I mean, this makes me think of the opioid epidemic, and you're throwing people in prison, but you're not necessarily giving them the help they need.
yeah,
So they come out and they go back to prison, and
yeah,
of course, there's court fines and stuff, and so it's a vicious cycle, man. I
yeah,
mean,
man. Until you've been addicted to something that makes life without it hell, you won't know that a fine doesn't mean anything.
I mean, I think that it should be you either go to jail or you go to rehab, and I think that you know of course, I just ranted about not wanting bigger government programs, but I think, some of the money they spend on, prison systems and, fighting
Could go
the
to
war on
rehab,
drugs, I think can be spent on opening, rehab centers.
or the 7/10 of $1 trillion we're spending on weapons. Like,
Yeah.
shit,
I
man,
mean,
take 100th of that. Like,
yeah, I mean, you could fix the opioid problem just like that, but
and furthermore, if it wasn't illegal in the first place and you're just educated, no one's arguing that alcohol is not bad for you, but we're educated about it for the most part.
yeah, and
Don't drink and drive. These are some pitfalls that will happen. Wait 20 minutes after you've had a shot because it hasn't hit you. Just basic shit that there are probably a lot of basic ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of every other drug, but we just don't know about it because they're all so taboo.
yeah,
It's like the boomer generation trying to understand like the legalization of pot, and they're like, "Well, how do you know what's in it?" And you're like, we grow up smoking pot, so we're like, take a couple hits, see how you're feeling. If you start to feel paranoid, that'll happen. Go beat off, eat some cookies, sit in a hot shower. You're gonna be fine. You can try it again another time. Like, even we know these, but to them, it's this black mystical power.
yeah.
We're all in that same boat when it comes to 99.9% of drugs. Like, there's a ton of shit.
It comes down to education. Yeah.
If you were just fucking, if you just look like, and it, as insane as it must have sounded in 1950 to say, I don't think reefer's that bad for you, dude. I don't think anything's that bad for you if you just know how to do it. Like, I fully believe that. I mean, one day you'll be able to go buy you'll be able to go buy meth and have awesome sex, or you'll be able to go buy fucking painkillers or benzos and watch SpongeBob for 14 hours. But you'll be fucking educated on it, and don't take more than that. Don't do.
Well, I mean, I think if you truly educated people on it, I don't think we would have a meth problem, or we would have a heroin problem.
They wouldn't do it, and if
Yeah.
and it's all it's.
I mean, you weed out the suckers, but
those are the people that we're gonna fuck up no matter what.
I mean, that's just
those are the people that those are the people that it's a harsh reality, but those are the people that if they're not going to overdose on meth, they're going to drink too much water and die. It's like some people just aren't going to make it. Like, but goddamn, man, and it almost and everything we're saying sounds idyllic and romantic, but I don't think it is. I think a lot of it comes down to it would work if we tried less hard. The war on think of how much effort goes into the war on drugs, the surveillance, the officers being killed, the fucking scanning every fucking bag that comes through every fucking port, pulling over every person, drug tests at every job, versus how easy it would be just, hey, don't do it, or hey, you're free to do it. And and people say,
but I want to do it.
But people say, well, what do you do when everything's legal? What do you do when someone gets really high on pills and they run out into the street naked? To which I think, well, what do you do right now if someone runs out on the street naked? Anyway, you get fucking arrested. What happens if you go to your job belligerent and you're high? What happens if you go to your job belligerent and you're drunk? You get arrested. It's like, there are already laws in place. Whether you're on meth or whether you're just an asshole, like, the laws are already in place. Like, I don't know, man. I think it might be chaotic for the first like year or two. I
Yeah.
think you'd probably have a huge spike in deaths, but I think it would drop dramatically after that. Like, isn't that the case? That's happened in nations where they legalized everything. Like, am I speaking out of my
Yeah, yeah, that happened in Portugal.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's sad because you don't want people to die. I mean, of course you don't.
Yeah.
But how else are you going to solve the problem? I mean, the war on drugs is just going to continually kill people.
It's going to go on forever. From overdoses and from fucking law enforcement officers getting shot raiding chop houses. Drug houses,
I mean, so it's essentially it's a lesser of two evils. We can have some people die now and have people die, less people die in the future.
Yeah, it's amputation or sepsis. It's like
yeah.
No, like we all agree, neither of them are good. Hey man, like shootings are not good. Anyone that's pro-gun is not going to defend shootings. They're fucking horrible. But the flip side is you get some Hong Kong thing where 1,000 times as many people
die.
Die. And then you get some statistic, 100 million dead in a century. Like, I mean, Jesus Christ, dude, Hitler doesn't hold a candle to Stalin or Mao. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really think the media, they have a way of portraying everything that, a school shooting is the worst thing that can happen compared to, like, I don't know, the Gulag. I mean, obviously, the Gulag is 100 times worse, but...
Yeah, but if you bring that up, then also, so you don't think shooting kids is bad? Like, it's immediately shoved in your throat. I mean, it's like...
That's just such a naive way to listen to what somebody's saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
People who do that are so freaking stupid.
Yeah.
They don't... I mean, that's just saying up front, I don't care about what the opposition has to say. I don't care about learning more. Yeah. I've already, it's just people that don't think. And I...
Yeah, it's... I don't know, man.
Yeah.
What do you think of the idea of solipsism?
What's that?
That there's only one self-aware entity in all of existence, and it's you. It's not simulation theory. It's not the idea that we're living in a simulation. It's that there's only one self, and everything is in your head.
Man, I don't know if I want to even think about that. It's going to make me delusional.
Well, it makes me think that everything you see in the outside world is a reflection of you. So
and I think that's true. Yeah.
So it's like living in this, this nation that seems torn at the seams, worse than ever before. Is that just a reflection of my own spiritual shortcomings? My own inability to see both sides of the same coin is manifesting itself as a rabbit.
Well, I think that's a neat tool to have, being able to see your self-reflection in public. I mean, I think that helps you become a better person day by day, if that's what you're doing, because we already know that most people don't work towards, self-progression.
Yeah, introspection, reflection.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's a very powerful tool to have if you're smart enough to use it. But I don't think that's just a proven fact. I wouldn't say that, the way I view things is just how it is. I think that's the way I view them, and I think that other people have their own way of viewing them. And I think that it's up to me to listen and maybe learn a little bit from their perspective.
Yeah. So I've lived in New Hampshire, Arkansas, New Hampshire again, Georgia, Maine, Georgia again, and now Maryland. I've lived in urban areas and I've lived in rural areas. I've lived near cities and I've lived in bumfuck racist time capsules to pre-Civil War eras. Valdosta, Georgia, looking at you. But I know. So I've met so many smart, intelligent, who are not just book smart, but are also good people, who are fucking respectful people. They'll help you out when there's nothing nothing to gain for them. They're people that are wonderful parents. I have friends that, I have friends that are doctors now, that are lawyers now, that are police officers, that are upstanding people that I would, you know, I don't want kids, but if I ever have a kid, I'd be like, yes, like if I die, you take care of them. Like, but living in so many areas, north, south, rural, urban, I have all these smart friends and family members who are right down the middle. The smart, respectful ones down to the stupid pieces of shit. You have an equal number left and right. So, that being said, I know too many smart, respectful people that are die-hard liberals and that are die-hard conservatives. After 29 years, and it's really only been the last year or so of my life that I've looked at it this way, I have to start to wonder, no one side can be correct, because there are these people that I respect and love so much on each side that are just such good people. And that, like, I could take two friends that are doctors and write down this, they're equal in everything, just awesome, stand-up people, respect, love their spouse, would never cheat, never talk behind your back, they'll pick you up at 2 a.m, whatever. But one happens to be a Democrat, and one happens to be a Republican.
Yeah, it doesn't label them.
It's like it doesn't make, like, it can't be, and it's not to say, well, it doesn't make sense. How could they be so stupid and be no? That's the exact thing I'm bringing up. Is it doesn't make sense that one or the other can be the right answer. Because a smart, intelligent person, if there was one true answer, they would all gravitate towards that. But the thing is you have too many smart, intelligent, wealthy, respectful people who are on opposite sides of the spectrum. But I'm saying this to reflect on what you said. How much of it is just the way that I see things versus the way you see things. If you grow up in Atlanta and you see a shotgun in the back of someone's truck, you're immediately going to think gang shooting or school shooting. If you go to where my dad grew up in northern New Hampshire, you will not bat an eye at a shotgun in a truck, just like you wouldn't bat an eye at a fucking Sprite bottle. It's because they're all fucking hunting up there. It's whatever. Like, it's just, it's... But if you take someone that's never left that small town and bring them to a city, they're going to look at any attempt at gun control as an authoritarian crackdown, which I admittedly do. But if you grow up in some place where there's school shootings and no one's hunting, and you're in the middle of a suburban or a metropolis, you're probably more inclined to say you really don't need a gun here. Versus if you take that metropolis person and bring him out to some farm or some poor town where they literally do hunt to put meat in the freezer, and they go, you don't need that gun, or you should be a vegan. You're going to be a vegan. You're going to look at him and go, you city slicker pussy, like, get the fuck out of here. But am I even making sense what I'm trying to say?
No, I completely understand what you're saying. Environment definitely has a lot of things to do on our perspective.
I don't think it's one size fits all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not one size fits all. But at the same time, I do think that there are sharks lurking in both sides of the water.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be more careful watching that, because I think the deep state is real.
Well, I don't think. I don't think that's a point of negotiation. There's an entrenched power structure.
Yeah. But that power structure, I mean, maybe it's evil in its head, but it's not the patriarchy. There is no black and white power structure.
Yeah. It's maybe they're aware of what we just talked about. Good people on both sides, and they're just pitting them against each other. You pit.
I mean, that's kind of how it seems.
Yeah, the divide and conquer. But what's creepy about it is like you don't know who the psychopath is.
You don't know he's controlling it.
Yeah, a really weird thing about psychopaths is like there's really no middle ground. You have the incompetent psychopath, and they end up in jail because they stabbed someone that wouldn't give them $1. And then you have the psychopath that is very patient, and they become the president or a CEO or a billionaire or a general, top guy at the Pentagon. And because those are the ones that rise to the top, because it's just cutthroat. There's no room for morals. If you want to get to the tippy top, the apex of human power, there's no room for anything short of tactical advancement. But yeah, it's weird. It's you either slip up and drop the mask and end up in jail because you were, decapitating small like woodland critters or something, or some weird psychopath shit, or you end up like engineering like the 2008 financial crisis. It's it's just psychopaths with different levels of intelligence. And
that's crazy.
That's a weird thing because, like,
and you don't know, what person is doing it unintentionally and what person is. You don't know the psychopaths from the normal people.
Yeah. And furthermore, can good people can we ever remove them from power? Because to remove them from power, to fight someone like that, you got to fight fire with fire. You can't reason with someone like that. You can't negotiate with someone like that. Someone that will stab you in the back no matter what. But are good people capable of ruthlessly removing psychopaths from power? So weird.
Well, I mean, I think this comes back to, the educating thing. I think you need to educate people that, hey, they need to have, like what Jordan Peterson says, they need to have their room clean before they look at the world. But,
yeah.
I mean, I think that if you teach people that once you start your career and that essentially you teach people, the difference between good and evil, you teach them that you can either instill bad in the world, and we've already seen plenty of that, we've talked about the 20th century already, or you can instill good, and, the choice is up to them. And I really think that, as a society, we definitely need more kindness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's just silly because, sometimes it's not even the big thing. Sometimes it's not donating $1 million to the charity. Sometimes it's just holding the door for somebody, or taking back somebody's shopping cart for them.
Just something. Yeah, just.
And it has a multiplier effect because then maybe they go and do something nice for somebody else.
When someone does something nice for you, does it not fucking like? It's like having jumper cables attached to your nipples, like,
Well, I mean, it's the same way. It's the same way with bad things. If somebody's mean to you, then you're going to go around and be mean to other people. Someone's
an asshole to you. You come home from work. Fuck you. I don't want to talk about it, dude. And it's like you're taking it out on your roommate, who's an angel. Versus like someone holds the door for you, or hey, you cut in or whatever, or they just randomly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially nowadays, we need to do a better job of taking that bad things less personal and saying, hey, this person said this to me, but it shouldn't affect me and it shouldn't make me treat people worse, because then they're just living in your head.
Not only that, but you can stop the domino effect.
Yeah.
Like, it's understandable.
Yeah, you have the power to do that.
Yeah. It's understandable if you were mean to someone because someone was mean to you. No one's going to fault you for that because we've all been there. Hell, that's probably why any of us are ever mean to someone else, because someone's been mean to us. Versus when someone's really cheery, and it's like, oh, you find out they're in a relation, they just got into a relationship and they're in love, and like it's glowing off of them. But it's like, so no one's gonna fault you for falling as another domino. Well, that guy fucking whatever, that fucked my wife, so I yelled at the mailman who fucking whatever ran a red light, whatever, on and on and on. But man, like, you have the power to stop that domino effect. Like, someone started it, and fuck that person. And it's not your fault it happened to you. And it's understandable if you perpetuate it. But you also have the power to sort of eat it. Like, like a hospital will eat the bill for someone that can't pay for it. They take it. Like, you have the power to eat the bad. Someone's a dick to you. You have the power to go, fuck that person, fuck that person, fuck that person. I'm going to keep it to myself. Like, have you ever been in a really bad mood, and what you should do is not be in a bad mood, but if you've already kind of acknowledged that you're just in a terrible mood and you can't change it, the next best thing is to just to go to your room, because Like I've literally like been in relationships or with my parents or with roommates and been like, hey, I'm in a really bad mood. I just failed a fucking test. Someone scratched my car. I'm gonna be an asshole no matter what. So I'm just gonna go to my room, like, because nothing good is gonna come out of interacting with me. Like you have the power to for the domino to hit you and to not fall over.
Yeah, you have the power to take a fine tip comb over your own life. And you have the power to change your surroundings.
Yeah. It's now is it also, by the way, like if at any point you got to go or I'm keeping you, just tell me because I talk forever.
That's fine.
Yeah, is that so I wonder if this is just an idyllic or romantic idea, but I wonder how many people do just need to like feel loved. Like I wonder how
there's too many.
How many people have scaled the corporate ladder and become billionaires and slash all competition and fucking buy off politicians? But I mean, how much of that is really just, again, armchair psychologist? Not that I have any fucking idea what I'm talking about. How much of that really is just like the one person they ever loved like cheated on them, or their parents didn't love them, or they were never included on Friday nights? Like, how much of that really is just this exponential wave or a snowball that just grows into an avalanche? Like, I wonder how many people just kind of need to feel love. And it's not what we were just talking about how bad things can happen to you. So it's not like, that guy's a child molester because he was molested as a child, like, and it goes on and on and on forever. But like, how many people very simply just never felt love or friendship? No one did anything bad to them, but after decades of it, it just got to a point where it was like, I'm gonna fill the void by becoming the richest man in America or whatever, Like, so when you look at it from that standpoint, so not only are you able to stop the domino and not let someone else's assholery cause you to be an asshole to someone else, but there also is almost like an implied responsibility that like you should really always try to be as nice and loving to everyone, because some people that's really all they need. And I know it sounds so, all you need is love, man, let's hold hands, it'll be together. No, like, because
you being nice to somebody on the street corner could be the difference between curing cancer or not curing cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what somebody's capable of or whatever. And some people, I've met people who shut down when, the first bad thing is said about them. They just completely shut down. I mean, they have no structure where they're able to cope. And I think that's another thing, that's going wrong, is people are forgetting that they need, ways to cope with the bad in the world.
Yeah.
I think, so what? So what? You had a bad night last night. You still need to get your ass up and you still need to go to the gym.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I think that's the way you need to look at the world. But ultimately, you need to be able to cope.
Yeah.
You need to be able to say, hey, this bad thing happened to me, but I'm going to do this to make myself feel better. I mean, you need those systems in your life. I mean, for me, and I'm going to, tell a story here. I lived in, rural Idaho, growing up, and, something happened to me where I became, that weird person that everybody just knows about. It's like the kid with the big ears. You just know about him. And, it feels like nobody's nice to you because nobody takes the time in a day to, be that kind to me. And, I was in high school. I was a shithead. I, was getting myself into trouble. I didn't spend any time reading. I never did any homework assignments. I would just go take tests. I would pass the class because I would do so well on the test. And I didn't understand my savant because I didn't have those coping mechanisms, and I felt like nobody was kind to me. Mm-hmm. And I think, sometimes the first step is you need to be kind to those kind of people, because maybe only then they could, brighten up and learn how to cope with the bad. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like, part of it is realizing that there is good and the bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, being able to view life in that scope helps people a lot, and it helps them learn how to cope. For me, it became, once I realized that, and, that's the reason why I, moved away from home for college, essentially, was to get away from that, and once I realized that, and I realized my own capabilities, I started doing really well in classes, but I think because of, my previous habits of doing well on tests but never doing homework assignments, I think that just has made me excel in college.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a funny thing, but, I think if somebody was nice to me, or if I had that extra kindness and I was able to, essentially put my shoulders back while I'm walking, then I would have probably been at a way better college,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean,
you can either make somebody's life better or you can make it living hell,
Yeah.
There is no in between.
Yeah. I mean, it really is, though. Yeah. I mean, I always think about it, not to get too serious, but I always think about, so I lost an older sibling to suicide 5.5 years ago. One thing that always blows my mind is, so I'm not going to get into the details, but he drove to a location and committed suicide. What always blows my mind is that there was someone that saw him driving, but it was just another car. Which makes me think, how many people have you driven by that were driving on their way to commit suicide? How many people did you pass in a grocery aisle that were fucking, they were getting their stuff ready for their last meal because they're gonna, sit in a garage. Then they're gonna sit in the garage that night and run the exhaust. And that's not this. Again, this is something where it's like, it's not you caused it. It's not, hey, you told that person fuck you and that pushed him over the edge. That's on you. You're an asshole. Fuck you. But I wonder how many people that are like, no, it's not your responsibility, but like, why don't you just assume that everyone you're seeing
is going through something
is on their, well, not only that, is literally on their way to commit suicide, like this evening. Like, FYI, this is not a red flag, right? This isn't me subliminally talking to you. So like, might as well hold the door. Or like, I always compliment every cashier, if they're a woman, not a guy. I don't want a guy to think I'm hitting on them. I compliment every fucking cashier. Anywhere, anytime that I'll just pick something. I like your hair. I like your earrings. I like your ring. No matter how mundane it is, no matter how much I don't like it, no matter how fucking stupid it looks. Do you know how weird it is when I compliment black girls on their hair? Because what am I going to say? I wish I could do that. So, hey, Shaniqua, you can really pull off those curls. I wish I could too. I wish I had those hoop earrings. But goddamn, man, I just say something like that. Really, since my brother died, I've done that. And a lot of times I think people just kind of brush it off. It's probably like, all right, this fucking faggot's flirting with me, which I'm not. But man, some people, dude, you can, like, it flips a switch. Like, their pupils dilate and they're like, oh, thanks, like, I just got this, like, whatever. And it's just like, even though deep down inside, like, you really don't give a shit about it, but it's just like something as like simple as that. Like,
I mean, saying shit like that when you may not necessarily care, I think it's worth, because I think their expression,
the fact
their happiness, I mean, it lights you up. I mean,
yeah,
it lights the world.
Yeah.
And I think we need more of that. And, I think, especially with retail workers, I think their job is hell enough.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man.
Why not?
Or that's why I always, like, when I'd go to Waffle House, man, that's why granted, whenever I went to Waffle House, I was fucking shit can drunk. But whenever I go to, I'd always tip like 200%. Get like a $7 all-star meal, tip like fucking $30. like, but I was just figuring, like, man, like, their job sucks so much. You're 40 years old and you're serving waffles and hash browns to a bunch of drunk college kids at 3 a.m, who, despite them being drunk at 3 a.m. while you're out here working, they're still off to a better future than you. largely in part just because of when and where they were born. Like, it's yeah, and I've got compliments before that I know are not sincere. Like I know they're like, hey man, that shirt looks good on you, and like I'm looking in the mirror and I can see my tits, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. But like the fact that someone at least said it, it's like that what drove them to say it. That's sincere. Like that's someone that wanted to make you happy. Like that part is sincere, unless you're a psychopath.
Well, I also think that you need to treat yourself in that same way.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people forget to treat themselves, you know, in that same kind of light. You know, you need to
give no sympathy to yourself. Yeah. Dude,
I mean, that's
the story of
you need to learn how to love yourself, essentially. And I think that's a very, very hard, barren thing to see because you know everything that's wrong with you.
Yeah.
But I only think you can make progress from it is basically when you basically say, okay, yeah, this is how it is, but I can make my life better by going to the gym. I mean, it's like just naturally being overweight. You know, there's people like that.
Yeah.
But you know, I think by saying, hey, you know, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work on myself. I mean, that's actually one of the goals I've had. You know, I've been dealing with this like cyst in my back that gives me bad sciatica for I don't know how many years now, and you know, in the past 2 years, you know, became infected, and you know, I want to go to the gym, I want to work on myself. You know, I used to be in powerlifting, this and that, but you know, right now I can't, and so it's like some people have that opportunity, but they just don't know how to accept their suffering, man. I mean, they can make their life so much better if they understood that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's the same way, you know. But anyways, I mean, back to what we were talking. I had like a mentor one time, and she was just super cruel and mean to me, man. And I couldn't understand it because I was still naive. You know, I was like, oh, yeah, you know, you're
just an asshole.
They're this amazing person who does stuff that I can't even comprehend at the moment. But you know, then I had, you know, my PI. He would come out and he would compliment me on the stuff I was doing, even if I had no fucking idea what I was doing. Yeah. And you know, of course, he knew that. But you know, I think about him, you know, doing that, you know, day in and day out, because the times that he was nice to me when I was otherwise miserable for my mentor were the times that I remember vividly, and the times that I had a good time while working in that lab.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, naturally, because of that, I want to treat people essentially the way that he treated them. You know, he saw that they were having a hard time, and he tried hard to make sure I got the most out of the experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
and I think there's some level of responsibility to that. I think that, you know, I think it's a silly expectation to have that everybody should do that.
No,
but I think if you're aware of it, I think you should do it because it's a good thing to do.
I don't think you can expect it from anyone.
Yeah.
I think everyone should hold themselves to that implied responsibility.
Again, it's like character versus personality. I mean, personality is just the way you are. Character is something you develop. I think that we need to focus a lot more on character in society rather than personality theory.
Yeah, it's
about who you can create. It's not about the marbles that you already have. It's about your potential.
It's beautiful.
So,
dude, I like the one thing I remember from high school above like all like. So I graduated high school in 2009. So it's been 10 years. So at this point, most of it's just one big blur of just, you know, masturbation and underage drinking. Like, but not to say my life's changed much since. But
well, I mean, that's just high school for you.
That's just, yeah. That's just. But, dude, the one thing I remember above all else was a terrible student. I don't think I ever got an A until college, which makes me getting into med school that much fucking crazier. I was a retarded meathead in college or in high school.
Yeah.
Dude, the one thing I remember above everything is I remember I wrote a paper about the atomic bomb, and I just went into description about like what the bomb looked like when it went off. Had nothing to do with what I was writing about, but I went into such depth that I remember my teacher, Miss Carvis, telling me afterwards. So I was a sophomore in high school. She said, like, you need to become a writer. She's like, because I got you, like, please be a writer. And I remember like contacting her in college. I was like, Miss Cars, I'm going to try to go to med school. She's like, congratulations, it's wonderful. You should consider being a writer. Like, I remember that positivity. And now I still don't want to be a writer. But like that positivity, that positive reinforcement, I still think about that. And that's what drives me to create a podcast. Just like, okay, like I can do cool shit. Someone will appreciate it. Like,
yeah, we all have that capacity for cool shit. And once you realize that the person right next to you who's homeless has that same capacity to do cool shit, then you start lifting others up. And I think that's an important distinction to make. I mean I think it's important to realize that you can either lift people up or you can put them down. So which is it? And it's the same thing. And the other end of that is that there's bad things about people, and sometimes you shouldn't. Maybe you should hold that against them, but I don't believe in that. I think that, everybody has that bad thing about them, and you shouldn't necessarily, and I think that's kind of naive because, there are psychopaths, and I think it's important to be aware. Yeah. But still, you should try to be a leader. You should try to be somebody who people can look up for, because we're all enduring this life together. We're all enduring hell. Why not make it?
We're all in this gulag together. Like,
yeah,
like, shit, man. Might as well share the bread. Like, it's, I think it's, to everything we said.
Yeah. I mean, I remember working in my university student center my sophomore year. You can tell those kids that all they needed. Well, I mean, you can tell those kids apart from the other ones where all they needed to, do better in their class was positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell all they've received at that point was negative criticism.
Yeah.
And, I would try very hard to almost make their tutoring tests personal to them, because I realized that they're not going to benefit otherwise, because all they've had been was criticized.
Yeah.
Up to that point in their life. And so positive reinforcement saying, hey, this is a good way of thinking about this problem, but it's not necessarily right. Why don't we take this aspect of your thought and let's apply it in this way, and then we'll be right. I mean, when you give people positive reinforcement like that, then I feel like they're able to engage more in the truth.
Yeah, and if you need to point out that they're doing something wrong, what I always do, and I do this when helping people study for like OChem or something, I would always begin it with like self-deprecation against myself, even if it wasn't true. Kind of like the fake compliment, even if it wasn't true. Like, okay, I'm that asshole. I broke all the curves in OChem. I got a 99 in OChem 2, 98 in OChem 1. I was that douchebag. But when I would fucking help people with it, I would always say, like, dude, trust me, I was in your spot once. I got a fucking F on that test. All right? Instead of saying, hey, you're going to get an F if you do this, that's just, you instantly are going to make someone feel like shit. And
yeah.
But that doesn't mean don't be unrealistic.
You're going to discourage them. You're going to discourage them.
That doesn't mean bring them into the land of rainbows and unicorns and say, hey, you're going to get an A, because that's going to fuck them over just as bad, because they're still going to get an F.
Yeah, it's just as bad.
Well, they're going to get an F, but I mean, first break it in with yourself. Be like, I got an F. You're going to get one if you keep doing this. Or I used to do this. I used to fuck around so much. Even when, like, when like an aunt or an uncle or a parent is, they're asking you a basic question with a computer, like Wi-Fi or something, or how to set up the printer, or how to fucking like configure your email. Instead of laughing at them and being like, you seriously don't know how to send an email? Something that we learned in 4th grade. Instead, I'll just completely bullshit it, but I'll be like, oh, dude, like I still fuck this up, and then teach them. Like, it's if you Trojan horse it with like your own shortcomings, accurate or inaccurate, people are much more open to it.
Well, not only that, I think that essentially you need to do the same thing for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if I do this, of course I'm going to fail this test, but I mean, I think you need to realize it, but I think you don't need to be hard on yourself. Is what I'm saying. I think you need to be hard on yourself to an extent, but I don't think you should sit there and say, "Oh, well, you're just a piece of shit and you're no good anyways."
Yeah,
And I think that's just as unrealistic as saying, "Oh, I'm going to get an A on this test."
Yeah.
Anyways, I mean,
Durant, I'm gonna go have terrible diarrhea in a minute, but so let's call it. Let's call it on episode 1.
All right.
Good fucking talk, man. Solid.
Yeah,
talk.
good talk. Yeah.
Solid talk, dude. Yeah. Yeah.